Very urgent. Your soulmate is saying, I need to tell you the truth before I lose you forever. My beloved. If these words have somehow found their way to you at this exact moment, please don't rush past them. Please don't assume this is just another message. Please don't tell yourself that you have already heard everything there is to hear. And most importantly, please don't close your heart before I have finished speaking. Because there is something I should have told you a long time ago. Something I kept buried beneath excuses. Something I hid behind silence. Something I convinced myself would eventually disappear if I simply waited long enough. But it didn't disappear. It grew. Every day. Every night. Every time I saw something that reminded me of you. Every time your name appeared somewhere unexpectedly. Every time a familiar song played. Every time I found myself remembering a conversation we once had. Every time I wondered whether you were thinking about me too. The truth became heavier. And now I am standing at a point where remaining silent feels more painful than telling you everything. I don't know what you will do with the truth once you hear it. I don't know whether you will forgive me. I don't know whether you will believe me. I don't even know whether you will still want me after I reveal what has been happening inside my heart. But I know one thing. I cannot keep pretending. I cannot keep acting as though I don't care. I cannot keep hiding behind distance. I cannot keep telling myself that losing you would somehow be easier than admitting how deeply you matter to me. Because the truth is, I am terrified of losing you forever. Not temporarily. Not for a few days. Forever. That word has been haunting me. Because there was a time when I thought I could walk away and simply continue living. I thought time would erase everything. I thought new people would replace old memories. I thought distractions would make the feelings disappear. I thought silence would make the connection weaker. I was wrong. So incredibly wrong. The more I tried to escape what I felt for you, the more clearly I understood it. You were never just a moment. You were never just someone who crossed my path. You became part of a chapter inside me that I never learned how to close. And perhaps that's why I am speaking now. Because I can feel the distance between us becoming dangerous. I can feel you becoming tired. I can feel something inside you changing. Maybe you're beginning to accept that I won't come forward. Maybe you're telling yourself that I have moved on. Maybe you're finally deciding that you deserve someone who doesn't make you question your worth. And if you are, I can't blame you. I know my silence has spoken louder than my feelings. I know my absence may have looked like rejection. I know my hesitation may have looked like indifference. But please, before you decide what my silence meant, let me tell you what was actually happening. I was afraid. Not of you. Of myself. Of what would happen if I admitted the truth. Because admitting that I love you would mean admitting that you have the power to hurt me. And I have spent so much of my life learning how to protect myself. I built walls. I became careful. I learned how to smile when I was hurting. I learned how to say, "I'm fine," when I was falling apart. I learned how to leave before someone could leave me. I learned how to pretend that I didn't need anyone. Then you came into my life. And somehow, you made those defenses feel useless. You saw pieces of me I never showed anyone. You noticed the things I tried to hide. You understood the pauses between my words. You could sense when something was wrong even when I insisted everything was fine. And that frightened me. Because being understood is beautiful. But being truly seen can be terrifying. You didn't just see the version of me I wanted people to see. You saw the person underneath. The insecure person. The confused person. The person who sometimes doesn't know what they want. The person who carries old wounds into new situations. The person who wants love but becomes afraid when love gets too close. And instead of running immediately, you stayed. That meant more to me than I ever said. But perhaps I became too comfortable believing you would always be there. That was my mistake. I thought there would always be another conversation. Another opportunity. Another night. Another chance to explain. I kept postponing the truth. I'll tell you tomorrow. I'll explain when things calm down. I'll say everything when the timing is right. Tomorrow became next week. Next week became next month. And suddenly I realized that time doesn't wait for people who are afraid. Time keeps moving. People change. Hearts become tired. Doors close. And sometimes, the person you thought would always be waiting finally walks away. That's what scares me now. Maybe I've already waited too long. Maybe you're already emotionally exhausted. Maybe you've reached the point where my words won't matter anymore. But I need you to hear them anyway. Because you deserve the truth. And I need to finally give it to you. The truth is, I never stopped thinking about you. I tried. I really did. I distracted myself. I stayed busy. I surrounded myself with noise. I convinced myself that I was perfectly fine. But somehow, the quiet always betrayed me. Because when everything became silent, you came back into my thoughts. Not as a memory I could control. You simply appeared. Sometimes it was your smile. Sometimes your voice. Sometimes a random sentence you once said. Sometimes it was the way you looked at me when you thought I wasn't paying attention. And sometimes it wasn't even a specific memory. It was simply the feeling of you. That strange feeling that made ordinary moments seem different. I would be doing something completely normal. And suddenly I would wonder. Where are they right now? Are they okay? Do they still think about me? Have they forgotten me? Are they with someone else? That last question hurt more than I wanted to admit. Because imagining you giving someone else the love I secretly wished to receive from you made me realize just how much I had been hiding from myself. I was jealous. I was scared. I was confused. And most of all, I was late. Late to understand what you meant to me. Late to say what I should have said. Late to realize that love doesn't always announce itself with dramatic moments. Sometimes love is hidden inside the smallest things. The person you instinctively want to tell good news to. The person whose opinion secretly matters. The person you miss even when you're surrounded by other people. The person you look for without realizing you're looking. The person who can change your entire mood with one message. The person whose silence can hurt more than anyone else's words. That person was you. And I didn't understand it soon enough. Maybe I thought I had more time. Maybe I believed circumstances would eventually become easier. Maybe I was waiting for some perfect moment that was never going to arrive. But there is no perfect moment. There is only the moment when you finally decide to be honest. And this is mine. So I'm going to tell you something I have struggled to admit. I was not distant because I stopped caring. I was distant because I cared more than I knew how to handle. That doesn't excuse what I did. I know that. Love doesn't give anyone permission to hurt another person. Fear doesn't justify silence. Confusion doesn't justify disappearing. And I don't want to use my fear as an excuse. I simply want you to understand the truth behind it. There were moments when I wanted to reach out. So many moments. I would open the message. Type something. Delete it. Type again. Delete it again. Sometimes I stared at your name for minutes. Sometimes I wrote entire paragraphs that you never received. Sometimes I wanted to say, I miss you. But I was afraid of what would happen after those words. What if you didn't miss me? What if you had moved on? What if you answered coldly? What if you ignored me? What if I opened my heart and discovered that you had already closed yours? That fear kept winning. Again and again. Until silence became a habit. And habits become dangerous when you stop questioning them. I started believing that staying silent was safer. But safe doesn't always mean right. Sometimes, safe is simply another word for afraid. And I have been afraid for too long. I need you to know something else. If you ever believed that you weren't enough for me, you were never the problem. If you ever wondered whether you were too difficult to love, you weren't. If you ever looked at my distance and thought, maybe I don't matter to them, you mattered. More than I knew how to express. There were things about you that stayed with me. Your kindness. Your strength. Your imperfections. The way you could make me laugh when I didn't feel like smiling. The way you could say something simple and somehow make me think about it for days. The way your presence felt familiar even when everything around us felt uncertain. You didn't have to be perfect. I never needed perfection. I needed honesty. And ironically, honesty is exactly what I failed to give you. That is why I'm here now. Not to make promises I can't keep. Not to manipulate your emotions. Not to demand that you return. Not to tell you that destiny will magically fix everything. I am here because you deserve to know what was real. And what was real was this. I cared. I cared when I pretended not to. I missed you when I acted indifferent. I worried about you when I didn't ask how you were. I wanted to talk to you when I stayed silent. I remembered you when I told myself I had forgotten. And I loved you during moments when I was too afraid to call it love. Maybe that's the truth I should have told you first. Maybe that's the truth I should have shouted instead of hiding. But now I need to tell you something even harder. I know I may have hurt you. I know there were moments when you needed reassurance and I gave you silence. There may have been nights when you stared at your phone wondering why I wasn't reaching out. There may have been moments when you questioned your own worth because of my behavior. And for that, I'm sorry. Not the casual kind of sorry people say because they want an argument to end. I mean the kind of sorry that comes from finally understanding the consequences of your actions. I am sorry for the questions I left unanswered. I'm sorry for the mixed signals. I'm sorry for making you wonder where you stood. I'm sorry for every time you had to guess what I felt. You shouldn't have had to guess. You deserved clarity. You deserved consistency. You deserved someone brave enough to say, I want you. Instead, I made you decode my silence. And that's unfair. If you decide you can no longer trust me, I will understand. If you decide you need distance, I will respect it. If you decide that your heart cannot go through this again, I will not blame you. But before you close that door completely, I need you to know why I'm standing outside it. I'm not here because I'm lonely. I'm not here because something else didn't work. I'm not here because I suddenly realized I don't have anyone else. I'm here because I finally understood the difference between missing someone and realizing you don't want to live without their presence in your life. I don't want to lose you because of something I was too afraid to say. And perhaps that is why these words feel so urgent. Because there are truths that become heavier when delayed. There are apologies that become harder to speak. There are feelings that don't disappear simply because we refuse to name them. And there are people who become impossible to replace. You are one of those people for me. I don't know what happens after this. Maybe we talk. Maybe we cry. Maybe we argue. Maybe we sit in silence. Maybe we need time. Maybe forgiveness takes longer than either of us expects. I'm prepared for that. What I'm not prepared for is pretending you never mattered. Because you did. You still do. And somewhere inside me, there is still a version of us that wonders what could happen if fear stopped controlling the story. Maybe we don't need to return to the past. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe the past should remain where it belongs. Behind us. Maybe what we need is something completely different. Something more honest. Something slower. Something built on communication instead of assumptions. Something where neither of us has to wonder what the other person feels. Maybe we need to meet again as two people who have changed. Because I know I've changed. The distance taught me things your presence never could. It taught me how much silence can cost. It taught me that pride can become loneliness. It taught me that pretending not to care doesn't make the pain disappear. And it taught me that some people aren't replaceable simply because time passes. You aren't replaceable. You are you. And there is something about you that my heart recognizes even when my mind tries to argue. So if you're listening to these words right now, please don't rush to forgive me. Don't feel pressured to respond. Don't feel obligated to return. Just listen. Let the truth exist without forcing yourself to decide what it means immediately. I have spent enough time controlling the outcome. Now I want to give you the freedom to choose. If there is still a small part of your heart that wonders whether I cared. Yes. I did. If there is a part of you that wonders whether I missed you. I did. If there is a part of you that wonders whether I ever wanted to reach out. More times than you know. And if there is a part of you asking. Then why didn't you? The answer is simple. Fear. Pride. Confusion. Immaturity. And the mistaken belief that there would always be another chance. But now I understand something. There may not be another chance. That's why I am speaking now. Before I lose you forever. Before the distance becomes permanent. Before your heart becomes so tired that it no longer remembers what it once hoped for. Before you meet someone who gives you the certainty I failed to give. Before you stop looking back completely. I need to say it. I love you. Not because you're perfect. Not because I think you belong to me. Not because I believe love means possession. I love you because something about your existence touched a part of me I had forgotten existed. And if loving you means respecting your choice, then I will. If loving you means giving you space, I will. If loving you means rebuilding trust slowly, I will. And if loving you means accepting that you no longer want me in your life, that will hurt. But I will respect it. Because real love cannot begin with control. It must begin with truth. And this is my truth. I was scared. I was confused. I was imperfect. But I was never indifferent. Not to you. Never. So before you walk away completely. Before you decide that our story meant nothing. Before you convince yourself that everything you felt was imagined. Please remember this one thing. You were not imagining the connection. You were not imagining the moments. You were not imagining the way something changed between us. But perhaps we both misunderstood what to do with it. Perhaps we were given something meaningful before we were emotionally ready to handle it. Perhaps we needed distance to understand what closeness couldn't teach us. And perhaps this isn't the end. Perhaps this is simply the moment when the truth finally enters the story. I don't know what tomorrow holds. But tonight, at least, I refuse to hide. I refuse to let fear speak for me. I refuse to allow my silence to become the final sentence. Because if this is the last opportunity one ever get to tell you how I feel, then I want my final words to be honest. You mattered. You matter. You were loved. You are still loved. And whatever happens from here, I will always be grateful that our paths crossed. But if there is even the smallest possibility that we can talk again, if there is even a tiny door still open, I want to knock. Not break it down. Not force it open. Just knock. And wait. Because this time, I want to give you the choice. I want to give you the truth. I want to give you the apology I owed you. And most of all, I want to stop hiding behind the person I pretended to be. This is me. Without the pride. Without the excuses. Without the mask. And I'm finally saying what I should have said long ago. Please don't remember my silence as proof that I didn't love you. Remember it as proof that I was afraid. And understand that I am finally trying to become brave. Because I don't want my fear to be the reason I lose you forever.